Hello, this is Andre, and welcome to this latest Mysocket demo. Today we will be talking about SSH-aware sockets. We're going to demonstrate how you can create this new SSH type socket, and we'll demonstrate how you can do zero trust on that and single sign-on, and how you can then rewatch the recording of a session. That's pretty exciting. So let's just dive in. This is how it works. You create a new socket. As you can see, we now have sockets of type SSH. I'm going to give it a quick name. So proxy demo. Okay. So you need to select SSH. We will enable authentication and zero trust rules. So we'll say for this demo, we'll allow everything for, let's say, gmail.com. And maybe tunk.io, and maybe also something like Andre at tunk.nl as a contractor or something. So let's create that socket. And so this is being pushed out to all of our servers worldwide now, and it takes 1 or 2 seconds. So it's Silent River 9742.h.mysocket.io. You can create your own custom DNS to that as well, but that's out of scope for this demo. But you can see how we've created this new socket and how it has a public SSH-CA connected to it and the rules. Excellent. So I've spun up a temporary DigitalOcean instance, and we'll go there. It's in this terminal. I already logged in. So the first thing we need to do is install the Mysocket client. We'll just introduce that in this demo because it's so simple. So you just go to download.edge.mysocket.io, select your platform, and then you can install that. So we'll just copy paste that, and there you go. Good to go. So the first thing I need to do is log in so we can interact with it. So let me just get the credentials. I'm going to copy paste that. Okay, and the password as well. Okay, so now we're logged in. So let's take a quick peek. So let's just, for example, request all the sockets. Okay, we can see that that same Silent River socket that we saw earlier. So let's just request the details for that one. Socket ID is, and see what that looks like. Okay, so you can see the same thing. It said of type SSH. It has this cloud authentication zero trust rule enabled. These are the same, authentication authorization rules that we defined earlier. And again, here is the certificate authority that we'll be using to sign SSH certificates. Okay, so we are almost good to go. There's a few more things. So first, let's also create a tunnel belonging to this socket. Create, and the socket ID for that is this. Okay, so now we can connect to that in a little bit. Okay, next up, we need to quickly make some minor changes to the OpenSSH config so that it will accept signed certificates. I've outlined in the blog how to do that. So if you go to our blog, you can find that. So we'll just go quickly through that together. You'll see how easy it is. So first off, we need to say, hey, we trust certificates signed by this CA. This is just a file location. So next up, we need to actually echo the CA into that file. Now, we already saw that the CA was available in the portal as well as here. So this was the CA. So we'll just put that in quotes and echo that to the file. Cool. So now that's done. We need to define the location for principals. So principals are basically line items in each certificate that kind of outline which identities or principals are allowed in. So here we say, hey, you can find this mapping of principals to local users in the home directory of each user. And so let's do that one last thing here. So here we say if there is a principal in the signed certificate called Mysocket SSH signed, which is found in all the certificates that we sign, allow that in essentially. And I'll do that for user root in this case, because that's the one I'm working on. And that's it. That's already the last step. So those are like 4 or 5 commands to make that work. Okay, so next step, we are going to connect mysocketctl tunnel connect. And the socket ID is this, and tunnel ID is this, and So what's happening right now is that we're asking Mysocket CTL to run on this server and say, hey, please set up the outbound tunnel belonging to the socket silent river that we just created. So this one's actually setting this outbound tunnel, which is really nice because it means that this server could be in a private VPC, behind very strict firewalls, behind NAT, and so on and so forth. So no real changes are needed for that. And it basically registers, says, hey, I am here on behalf of socket silent river 9742. And I'm willing to accept connections for that. And basically, traffic that then comes in after it's authenticated and authorized is then sent to port 22 on localhost. So that's really cool. I think with that, we should be good to go. So let's just see on this second window here what happens if I log in to this server. So let me just do a fresh copy paste here. So root. So what happens here is that browser pops up on my client. So I'm doing this from my laptop, and we need to authenticate. There's various ways, but I'll use Google. We had a few rules. So I'll use gmail.com in this case. And what's happening under the cover is that some certificates are being created and exchanged, and it says, okay, I am now allowed in. And as you can see, I now get the SSH key. So I need to accept the key. And there you go. Now you can see how I am logged in. So you actually should be the same server, as you can see. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So I'm in here. Let's just do something, some commands. So mtr 1111. Okay, cool. See, it's a nice interactive, some colors. Okay, yeah, that seems to work. Let's do a quick ping maybe. Yeah, that seems to work as well. Cool, some top. And then finally, I want to create maybe a little bit of traffic on the terminal just to, okay. So that works too. As I'll let top run for a little bit here. So let's go to the portal now and see what that looks like. So if we go to sessions in this tab, we should now be able to see two things. So here you can see that atunk@gmail.com has logged in from this IP address and establishes TLS session, over which is then running an SSH session. So what I can do is actually terminate this session from the portal, and what you should see here, and you might have seen that at the bottom, that I've now logged myself out, right? So it's very powerful how you can see how the administrator can kill sessions purely based on identity, right? It's really cool. So we find all the related TCP sessions and kill them in real time. Now, let's take a look at the first line here. So this was the SSH session running in that TLS session. And you can see I was logged in as user root, same identity, and I can now also replay that session. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So this is really powerful from compliance and auditing standpoints. You can see exactly what's happening. So not only did we pull up sort of these, we logged in with SSO credentials, we didn't have static keys, but we're also recording the session and can see exactly what's happening. So we execute this mtr command, we said, look at the colors, yeah, that works all, the interactiveness of this works all really well. I think next we did a ping. And you can see how this is like, exactly at the same pace, you can see exactly what the user did. We ran top, just to show the interactive nature of this. I think we ran find, yeah, just to generate some traffic on the terminal. And then finally, I think I ran top again and went to the portal to kill the session. And so if I look here, you can see that I think it will last for another 10 seconds or so, and then the session was killed. So I think that brings us to the end of the demo. So in this session, we showed you how to create an SSH aware socket through the portal. We then logged into this brand new DigitalOcean machine on which we installed the Mysocket CTL client. That took us a few seconds. We then reconfigured SSH to accept signed certificates. And then we set up the tunnel, and then we set up an SSH session, and we're now watching that live SSH session, and we saw how we killed that session. So hopefully this kind of showed you how easy it is to use and how powerful it is to log in with just your single sign-on credentials and get live session recording and the ability to kill sessions. Hope this was useful. If you have any questions, just leave a comment on the blog or send me an email. Thank you very much.